Hi, this is Ed, and I'm in San Diego, California. And today is January 18, a little after 7 a.m. here on the coast. The rain has stopped, the sun is out. And I have to tell you, Joanne and I drove from Phoenix, not last night, but the night before, which is like a 6.5 hour drive over the mountains in eastern San Diego County. And it was desert on the other side. And we got up through the mountains and there was rain. The temperature dropped 20 degrees. I thought we were going to slide off the mountain. And it was like an unbelievable drive the last hour and a half. But here we are, safe and sound in San Diego. It's really terrible weather, but it looks like it's going to be good and will dry out here in Southern California. So we have an all-star cast here, and I'm really honored. And we'll be joined by a couple of others as the show progresses. Everyone will have a chance to speak. Everyone will have a chance to connect. Gary Sanger has just sent everybody a memo in the chat about how to put your name on the visible screen here. And I welcome you and invite you all to share your website or your LinkedIn, your email, ask any question to anybody. Your ROI will definitely be in these connections going forward. To facilitate that, as a producer, broadcast host, I welcome you all back into subsequent productions as we go forward. I've been fortunate since early 2020, late January, February, when we launched globaltvtalkshow.com. We have produced 550 something programs and generating an audience of 212,000 in over 100 countries. And it wouldn't be possible without people like yourselves who are willing to come and use time and energy. Of course, the benefit is meeting people and getting good PR. So I feel the responsibility as the producer here, as a developer of the product. I feel the weight of the responsibility to deliver news and information in a non-political, strictly business way. And we welcome you to think of someone else who you may know who might be good on this kind of a format. Not everybody likes this, okay? And not everybody can do it because they're camera shy or whatever. We have a number of interesting people in our network. This program will be seen through the subsequent marketing, distribution, and exhibition across our YouTube channel, our LinkedIn networks, Facebook group, Instagram, and whatever. More than 100,000 will watch this program in the coming weeks because we'll make sure it gets into their hands. Whether or not they watch the whole darn thing, I have no control over that. A lot has to do with you, our presenters and our masterminds, as I'm calling you, because of your unique talents and your unique perspectives. Let's start off. Yvonne Quay is, as I mentioned earlier, with the World Bank Group, based in the headquarters city of Washington. Her role specifically is manager, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Yvonne, manager of the family network within the bank. So this is a little separate from the bank itself, isn't it, Yvonne? You're on mute.
Yeah, okay. Yes, I'm actually the program advisor. So there is somebody else above me, but I basically look after globally mobile populations. And all the different shapes and forms that they come in. But my main expertise is dual career, because as we all know, getting talent to the right place at the right time, and also getting women into the echelons of leadership as they manage dual careers, because usually they too are married to partners who have high-powered careers. So how do you do that? And our organization requires a lot of mobility. And so that is a challenge when you have two high-powered careers. Yeah.
So your customers are the executives, the senior managers and their family.
Everybody.
I think. Yeah. And so there's a lot of relocation that goes on, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I want you to meet James Moss. absolute relo. James, raise your hand, say hi.
Hi, James.
Yeah,
Hey, hi, Yvonne.
he's originally from London, and that's where we met a long time ago when he helped me organize and he spoke at some of my London conferences a long time ago. He's now in the US several years and now bouncing back and forth.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. I mean, what I do is mobile on your phone global relocation, which really focuses on really how people's work lives have changed, combined with how people communicate. And I think, well, the world has changed a great deal. It was changing before COVID. Then we had COVID come along.
Yes.
Now we have other significant global events going on, such as the war in the Ukraine and so on, which
Yeah.
is a massive impact across the world.
So
And
I want you to all use your chat, if I may jump in here. I have to move this along, but we'll certainly double back to you, and we welcome you to interject any thoughts going forward. Yvonne has a hard close in 10 minutes or so. So Yvonne, your book, I'm going to put you on big view here so everyone can see. Okay, Yvonne, tell us about your book.
Well, my book is about dual careers and how you make those decisions. Whose career is it? Yours, mine, or ours, as the title says. And of course, that is a very hard discussion to make. Sometimes I've realized since writing of the book, there is also a genderized decision that is made mainly on an unconscious level, actually, that I was thinking, about what I would, some of the decision-making traps, like a financial trap. So a rushed decision is made. I've been asked to go to country X, and I come home and I have to decide. So who's earning more now? Okay, you're earning 100,000, I'm earning 50,000. So, okay, you get to pick. And this kind of short-term perspective, or you get the priority, so to speak, because that's a financial trap. And we actually haven't thought of the long term. We haven't thought about, is this what we want to do? So it is, in the end, about the life we want. Because I think, as James said earlier, particularly since COVID, I think people have become much more conscious about well-being, about what do I want to do with life. And a lot of people are saying we don't want it to be completely absorbed with work. And so therefore you've then got to recalibrate and make different decisions, right? So.
Okay, so let's bring in Matthias. Please meet Yvonne. Yvonne, do you have World Bank people in Germany? I would assume you do.
No, actually, because it's not a developing country. We don't have a country program. Sometimes we have hubs for where we put a lot of people and they move out from there. But no, we don't have anything in Germany.
I see. Okay. So I want you to meet Matthias and also Dave Levine. They're in employee assistance plans, and
Yeah.
I'm sure you utilize that kind of a service.
Yeah, hi Yvonne, I'm happy to hear you. Maybe not so far you don't have a destination in Germany, but there might be sometimes. From an EAP perspective, Germany is seen as the motor of the economic of Europe. So right these days, a lot of EAP, global EAP provider try to get to Germany and work from Germany all over Europe. So maybe that could be also next step. I'm not pretty sure, but if you need any hands, I would be glad to help you out.
Thank you. Thank you.
So is 23 going to be different for you and the bank's family network, or a continuation of?
Well, I think we are trying to work out now what would be the best way forward post-COVID, looking at our members' needs, looking at the mix between in-person and virtual events, because in an odd sort of way, there is a mixed response. Some people are dying for everything to go back to the past and face to face and things. And other people have said, hey, we've moved on. You know, there are lots of benefits with virtual. And so trying to make sure that we address the needs of our members. And of course, it's very nuanced because we have 140 countries. So it's not the same in every place.
Yeah. So I'm sure you're busy in Ukraine.
We have moved our people. I think some have gone back. I'm not entirely sure, but a lot of people initially were moved to Vienna.
Yeah, that makes sense. So Chris Exline, when do you go into Ukraine?
I fly to Krakow tomorrow, and then first thing Friday morning, I go across the border, walk across the land bridge there, and my driver will meet me and take me back home to Kremenets on Friday for lunch.
Chris, is your family with you in Ukraine? I'm curious.
You know what? That's a very good question. I don't talk about my family in Ukraine.
Sure.
One, because I'll be honest with you on this group. I'm openly gay. My partner is living in Hong Kong, and we think that it would be highly inappropriate for us to go over there and make this about our lifestyle more than about what we're trying to do through building a new business, saving jobs, adding jobs, and participating in the reconstruction. Having said that, you know, he's very supportive of what I'm doing. We've made the decision as a couple that we'll keep our homes in Hong Kong. He will actually, he's a singer, so he's going to go to Taipei where he can do a TV show. But you know, so we worked on this because as you know, Home Essentials is involved in relocation through furniture rental, and you know, as a couple, we worked through this because my commitment to Ukraine, the company's commitment to Ukraine is 3 to 5 years, if not longer. So how do we as a couple maintain our family by being separated? But I mean, as you know, Ukraine is not perhaps the friendliest to our lifestyle, and nor would I ever want my lifestyle to be a topic of consideration or saying, hey, you have to accept me because I'm the factory owner or because I've brought this business here. It's all about helping and participating with them. And so I'm very grateful that Hugo has been so supportive of what I'm doing, enthusiastic about what we're doing, because he's seen the effects that we've had on these people where they're just happy to have jobs. I mean, when we're delivering these mattresses to refugees, they just want to, we're meeting them at their place of need.
Oh yeah.
And we've been able to do this as a business. And I've also had, I have to say, I've had tremendous support from all of the other Home Essentials people around the world that are supportive of what we're doing. And I couldn't do this without them. And, you know, and so they're seeing that, you know, we're actually, we don't know when victory will come, and we don't know what victory will look like. But as a company, and, you know, since I don't have a board or shareholders, I'm able to say, you know what, we're going to do this. I will be there, and we will be there for as long as it takes, laying the infrastructure, building out the organization, rounding out the supply chain, learning the operational realities of doing business in Ukraine, so that when victory does occur, when relocation does occur, when the contractors come in, we'll be prepared and ready to assist them.
That's really interesting. So I want to before Yvonne has to dash, I want to make sure everybody can connect with Yvonne, use the chat. Gary Sanger, have you done any work with the World Bank?
I have colleagues in my Search Alliance, which is Kestria, 45 countries, 90 cities. So the answer is yes. Secondly, the answer is, Chris, I would love, we have alliances with fellow partners in Ukraine in terms of search. I'd love to see how we might assist. I text regularly with my colleagues there in Ukraine. And
do you need my resume?
I do.
Wow,
I do.
Ed, thank you so much for this call. I didn't know I was going to get a job.
But the idea is, are you safe? Are you okay? Is your family fine? You know, and she often says, Natalia Slinko is her name. She's a wonderful lady. We have no electricity, we have no water, but we have our freedom. And here she has a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old boy and girl, and husband is out supporting the country. I'm just so empathetic. And so how you and your mattress company and how we could help these folks, this could be anywhere in our backyards, anywhere in our communities. And I just, for one, would like to get fully supportive on how we make your mattress company successful there, because these folks, they're trying to sleep. They're trying to stay safe. They're trying to, have water. And here we might be worried about our internet connection, or, the paper was late. I'm totally empathetic as to what we have with our friends and neighbors in the Ukraine.
Gary, thank you for that. And Ed, I want to talk on this for a second, because having moved to Ukraine, I have experienced 4 days without water, without electricity, without heat, where it's below freezing in my own apartment. And it has an impact on every single person living in that nation. And this evil endeavor of knocking out the energy grid, people with aneurysms that need dialysis, that may have a stroke, they cannot get the care that they need. So it really does have deleterious consequences for millions of people that are there. And I'm not saying anything about people that aren't in Ukraine, or people that are upset about internet connections, but for the people that are living there, I can tell you that they are resolute in their love of the freedom for their nation. Their will is not broken. And when they emerge from this, they will be absolutely the best, among the best workforce in Europe. I have to be careful what I'm saying, because I'm in Madrid. So if somebody hears me, I don't want them to think that I'm comparing them as a bad workforce. But with all due respect, I mean, the resolve of the Ukrainian people, I can tell you this: if I wasn't in this small town, if I was just based in Kyiv, Kyiv is totally different from these small towns. I mean, this is as different as being from, say, Chicago or New York to being in Nashua, New Hampshire, or Mount Vernon, Ohio, or Cadillac, Michigan. These people are just bonded, and they just care about their country. Our town has 40% unemployment, 20,000 people, 3,500 refugees. And so Home Essentials has delivered about 2,000 mattresses thus far, and we should deliver another 2,000 by the end of March. And that's where it all starts. So it's not, no. It's not about what we're doing. It's just about, I think you're going to see a lot of other companies see that it's okay to invest in Ukraine, and now's the time to do so.
Yeah, everybody share your contact details using the chat. Yvonne, I know you got to scoot, so before you go, what do you have coming up? Are you going to be on travel? Oh, you're mute.
At the moment, we're still here, so we've got nothing really scheduled at the minute. So we'll probably go to Europe, in the next few months, but we're here at this minute for now.
Yeah.
But Chris, I just want to say, please let me know if I can help. I'm really inspired by what you say, and there's nothing like hardship, I think, to bring up character. And wow, I mean, we haven't even begun. I don't think, I feel that, rather, what do you say? I wouldn't say weak, but I'm humbled to hear how wonderful and courageous these people are, I guess. Their courage is astounding, their ability to keep the focus in view of such adversity. Wow. Wow is all that I can say.
Yeah, good. Well, thank you, Yvonne, for your time today. And I welcome you to be back on Global TV talk shows. In mid-May, we're going to produce a series of in-person meetings across Europe. And we're working on all the details now. And if you're in Europe in mid-May, then certainly I would welcome you.
Thank you.
We'll be in Hamburg. We'll be in London, we'll be in Paris, maybe Amsterdam or Rotterdam, I'm not sure, but in Switzerland, and we'll end up in Milano. Each meeting will be broadcast as well as be in person.
Fantastic. We get to meet.
Yeah, I know. We've never met in person. So that's great. So thank you very much. So everybody, this is Emily Braun. She's currently in Toronto, but she is originally from Moldova or someplace over there, right?
Yes, and lived in Ukraine, and I was really happy to connect with Chris before this meeting. And Chris, as I told to you, you would be different. You're already a different person. So after a year or so living in Ukraine under such circumstances, you will be really super version of yourself. I would say it's not that I would like to diminish what you are now, but it's this experience. It's really, special. And if you need more, connections, contact from my side in Kiev, in Eastern Ukraine, you will discover new sides of Ukraine as well.
Yes, that's great. Okay, and I want to make sure everybody knows Tineke Renson. So Tineke, your primary job, your role in life is to help women business leaders become more, right?
True. Yes. I'm situated in the Netherlands. So it's becoming dark. It's afternoon here. Yes, I became passionate for this topic because often it became very natural to me doing business, building businesses. I was always supported by male business owners. And I am seeing that they have a different way of doing business. It's very structured, it's very goal oriented. And there's a lot of things that don't become that natural to women. It's not things we cannot learn. I learned them because I was surrounded by men all the time. A lot of my team members, when I was employing people, were men. We were in the outdoor and survival industry. So I can say the first half of my year, I learned from men, even a bit longer, until my 30s, 40s. Now I'm learning so much about how women are operating, and I can see the benefits of both. I can see the struggles of both. I can also see the struggles of them collaborating together sometimes, not always. And I focused helping business women because it's my strong belief that there has to be more support for women in business. We all agree that we need more women in politics, that we need more women in boardrooms. I'm an advocate for women building bigger businesses for the same reason. Because we do business sometimes in a different way. And what I love about the era we live in now, especially Western countries, the feminine traits are now growing. There's a lot of men who are interested in this as well. And I've already heard it here, and I see it in the way men here communicate and want to support and want to collaborate. That's a feminine trait. Women do that naturally. Men learn it because, it benefits. And at some point, they love doing it because it makes you feel good. So I'm all about helping people to understand those two things, but especially towards the benefit of women becoming more seen, heard, and do and be the way they are and become successful the way they are.
Thank you. I want to introduce Sandrine Bardot, who's just joined us from Dubai. Sandrine, unmute yourself and say hi.
Hi, everyone. Sorry for being late. I got another call and couldn't make it shorter. I'm happy to be here. It's been a while. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, yes. So Sandrine and I have known each other since 1999, and she was a speaker at our first live meeting in Paris. And at that time, she was head of Microsoft Comp and Ben in Europe, right?
Yes, it's been a long way, but I can't believe I was so precocious because I was a 2-year-old baby at the time.
I know, I was robbing the cradle.
We've known each other for a long time. Yes, it's always been a pleasure to attend your events.
Yeah, well, thank you. So I want to connect you with Paul Falcone, who's on the screen there. Paul, meet Sandrine, and please exchange messages. Sandrine, Paul is a longtime HR, CHRO executive, and Sandrine is a Comp and Ben. She's now compensationinsider.com.
Oh.
Paul?
Good, Sandrine. It's a pleasure to meet a fellow HR person out there, especially doing it for Microsoft. Very impressive.
Oh,
Lovely
thank
to
you.
meet you.
Time ago, I'm now an independent consultant and trainer and board advisor. So
Wonderful.
Yes,
Looking forward to connecting. Great.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
great. So how long have you been in Dubai and Abu Dhabi?
oh my gosh, it's 15 years. Can you believe it? Like all the expats that go to Dubai, I was like 2-3 years maximum. This city is built on sand. We cannot put roots over there. And now you would have to kick me for me to leave it. So I'm at least for now, until they kick me out, I guess.
Yeah. So Matthias and Dave Levine, do you have an EAP in a group in Dubai?
Yes, it's fairly active. It's such a unique community with 80% of the population or more being expats, the employee population being expatriates. And the mobility there is just, it's so much more than most countries. So yeah, EAP sort of began years and years ago with a focus on expats. It's generalized to local nationals, but there is one of the leading providers is called the American Center. It's a misnomer because it's definitely a UAE-based provider of behavioral health services, but they provide good EAP services, and there are others. And with multinationals like Emirates Airlines and others being based there, it's also attracted more EAP activity.
Okay, thanks very much. I want to make sure everybody knows Emily Braun. She has a business specialty of international lifestyle consulting, which means she helps people relocate, work from anywhere. Right, Emily?
Yes, to be exact, I'm helping American and Canadian professional baby boomers and remote workers to find the best matching country for their family for work and retirement. And I'm not working with all over the world. It's impossible at this moment for me. I'm working with certain countries in Latin America, starting from Mexico down south, and with south of Europe, with countries like Portugal, Spain, Italy, Greece, and Bulgaria. And why such variety? Because I am offering different lifestyle for the different type of people with different, desires, different budget, and different ideas. It's what I'm about. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I want to make sure Mark Colo knows Andrew Elliman, and everyone knows Mark Colo. Mark Colo is now living in Utah, moved there, relocated his family from Southern California up to where the national monuments are, right, Mark Colo?
Yeah, I think there's a few. There's a few over here. Actually, there's quite a few over here. I haven't been to them all yet. I've been to a few of them, but I do miss Newport Coast. I love Orange County. Yeah, it's been a hard time to shake that, but we go back and visit as often as we can.
Yeah. So Mark is a long time, well, he's now retired from doing it, household goods in the U.S. primarily. And his specialty has been, over the years, has been relocating movement of goods for scientists, world-renowned research scientists in the medical field into UCI, University of California, Irvine is a major medical center and big time. Mark, why don't you talk a little bit about that? And
I will.
let me also just introduce Mark further.
Thank you.
For 14 years or so, he's had the disease called Parkinson's, is managing it. And but as you could tell, he's a super bright guy and very, very energetic despite all of that. And he's a working example of recovery and going forward despite stress and handicap. He and others, very prominent people in the community in Southern California, set up an IRS-approved charity called findneurohelp.org. And I've been honored to help PR the charity over the years. Mark and I have developed medical TV talk shows in which we interview famous people involved in research. I'm going to stop talking. Mark, take it from here.
Well, Ed, as many of you have heroes on this call, Ed's always been my hero. And he's been a great example for me and a good friend. So I appreciate his support. I was first diagnosed about 16 years ago in the year 2006. It hit me out of left field. I had no idea that I had Parkinson's. I went in and did some testing and I thought I was in the wrong room. Thought the doctor didn't know what he was doing. Thought he was a quack. And all these tests came up to one conclusion. And that was that I had early onset Parkinson's. Now, at the time I was diagnosed, I had 3 children under the age of 10. I had a spouse, a very supportive spouse, and I had a dog named Quincy, largest cockapoo on the planet. That was our family. And then later that year, I met with that specialist, and they said, Mark, I don't know how to cushion this at all, but I think your signs are early Parkinsonian symptoms. And no pressure, right? Yeah, I'm sure that was my first thought. How am I going to get through this? You know? So, but I've learned a lot. And nowadays my mantra is kind of like adaptability proliferates possibilities. And when you have Parkinson's, you have all kinds of adaptations you have to learn, adjustments you have to make. It's not an easy road to go down, but it's a very enlightening experience. I feel like I've had pockets of wisdom and inspiration that have come to me. I look at Chris and I think of Chris and what he's doing with the mattresses. I think that's awesome. That's admirable to me, Chris, that you would do that. And I really I've come to love great mattresses. I mean, you got to find that rest somehow. But a little story about how I first got involved with this. I did relocation for about 40 plus years. During that time, I was probably in the top 5% of sales for my van line, my industry, for the work I did. So I kind of made my mark in that side of the business. But then toward the end of my career, when I got Parkinson's and when I started to try and adjust to the mental adjustments, I started shifting my focus, and I started focusing shifting my focus on some of these world-renowned scientists that I was meeting as I would move these individuals from university to university. Most of them came from Ivy League colleges and were moving to the West Coast. But I met some amazing scientists that I could probably take a whole episode Ed talking about some of these scientists. But the first one I met was probably one of the most renowned, and his name was Howard, and I'll leave his name off the discussion. But Howard was one of the most brilliant men I've ever met. His right-hand man, who was on his research team, was a 25-year neurosurgeon and veteran. And I asked him one time on the side, how smart is Howard? And his name was Mass. Mass said, Howard, he didn't flinch. He said, Howard is the most brilliant man I've ever spoken to. And that just really always impressed me about Howard. So a client called me, purchasing, said, Mark, can you move laboratories? I said, yeah, I can move laboratories, no problem. And they said, no, can you move laboratories? She asked me 3 times, can I move laboratories? And I said, Diane, what are you worried about? She said, this guy is going to be my boss's boss, and if you mess it up, I'll lose my job. I said, oh, no pressure, Diane, no pressure, I'll take care of it. I hung up the phone. I said, thank you. I called Howard, and Howard was waiting for my call. I rarely have clients that would wait for my call. They wanted to get me off the phone, get on with their day. This guy said, thank you, I was waiting for your call. And then I said, well, Howard, what is your biggest concern about your relocation? And he went quiet for a couple of seconds. He said, I'm glad you asked me that question. He said, I have 13 cryogenic freezers with 40,000 brain samples of individuals who passed away with Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. That's my life's work. Can't afford anything to happen to that and go wrong with it. And I said to Howard, I can more than fully understand that. I can't imagine the magnitude. I said, what else are you concerned about? He says, well, I'm glad you said that. If the temperature in these freezers increases or decreases by more than 3 degrees, it will compromise my samples. And I can't afford to have that happen. Can you guarantee me that won't happen, Mark? And I know our industry is fraught with some challenges and issues, and you know, just the human factor alone can create some challenges and problems. So I thought, how am I going to deliver this thing? I'm very pleased to say that I somehow got through it all, got all of his specimens delivered. Not one single specimen was lost or damaged. And Howard and I have built such an amazing relationship ever since that. I probably, through Howard's relationship, have moved another 100 research scientists in various fields, going to be the next Nobel Prize winner for some kind of a cure for something. So it's kind of cool to think about. I'm relocating people, I'm relocating their cure, the possible future cure as well.
That's
So
really dynamite. That's really
Ed.
dynamite. And I'm really happy to say that Mark facilitated Howard and other world-renowned research scientists come on medical TV talk show and be our guests and tell their own story. And so we have all these shows in a group, and if somebody wants it, send me a message, I'll send them out to you. These are real people speaking real English, despite their otherworldly brains, including the Dr. Paula, who's head of the National Stem Cell Foundation, who was on our program and will be again. So we've got to bring in Andy Ellerman. We got to bring in Annette Durnick. So real quick, Andy Ellerman, you've heard this. He's not a competitor. He's retired now, but but Andy Ellerman also is in the household goods shipping business. Andy Ellerman, thanks for being on our program again.
Thanks for having me on again. It's always a pleasure to see some familiar faces and meet new faces as well when we do these. Mark, I think it's fantastic. You know, I think what you do and what you've just said, that whole story, I think it's incredible. Chris, great to hear what you're doing in Ukraine. If there's anything I can do, the company I work for, we have offices in the Ukraine, so we may be able to help you there as well. So we've got fully operational offices there still. So I'm sure we can do something there to help you as well. Yeah, it's just incredible to have all these people in the room at once. I'm always amazed at how that's going to be. You know, I never see anyone as such as a competitor. I think we're all in this industry together. We need to work together. We need to operate together to make sure we provide a solution that's correct for the right people. So yeah, it's always a pleasure to be on your show, Edwin.
Yeah, thank you. And so, Andy, you have a warehouse in Kyiv?
Yes, we do. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Chris, do you need a warehouse?
We've actually got, we've already started rolling out our own distribution facilities and our light manufacturing facilities. But I would very much like to chat with you, Andrew, offline, because you know the need for logistics and movement within Ukraine is not easy.
Yeah.
Getting things into Ukraine is not easy. One of the reasons we bought the capacity of this mattress factory is we currently manufacture them in China, but they consume so much volume in containers that we couldn't bring them over. So for furniture rental, we have to have a continuous supply of mattresses. So we developed that in Ukraine. So yeah, and our showroom in Kyiv will open up in at the end of Q1. So we'd love to see where collaboration could take us.
Yeah, no, we should definitely connect up. I've got quite a lot of connections out there for you as well. I've got another friend who's out there. He's got a pizza company. He's from Scotland. He took his first. David Fox Pitt. Do you know him at all?
They're in Lviv. They're down on the Polish border, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
The Sabone Trust.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he was from Scotland. He packed up everything. He's over there, and they are cooking pizzas for everyone who crosses the border. So everyone who comes across the border gets met with a pizza. Doesn't sound a lot, but it's a huge amount to people that are needing someone with just a bit of food, etc., that comes through. So there's lots of things happening.
And on that, sorry, I mean that is something as bizarre as trucks that distribute what I think I think they're at 5,000 pizzas now. You know, we so often forget it's that one connection, just basically the connection of these people in Ukraine knowing that someone cares, and whether it's through pizza or through cotton or whatever it is, it really, the multiplier effect of those things is off the charts.
Yeah,
Fascinating. So Annette Dernick, you're all about love and peace and engagement, right?
Love and peace and companies. Yes. Thank you very much. I always love how you bring together people with, let's say, different needs and different aspects, but who can collaborate. So that's really something that I really appreciate a lot. And yeah, while listening, I have to say that I've been working for relocation companies as well, because I'm very fond of intercultural awareness. And I also supported many students before going abroad, and also employees before going to another country. And the other thing, and that's the main reason why my company now is called Love and Peace and Companies, is that only very late I realized that some traumatic experience from my parents during World War II influenced my life considerably. I didn't know that before, only after, let's say, some special event or something special occurred in my life. And now that I know for sure that I really want to work for peace, because we can't fight for peace. It's only that we can change our own attitude, and it all starts with me and with my behavior. And I think, in my opinion, it's not always necessary to look across borders, but as I can start with me, I also look into companies, and the companies I've been working in or with sometimes had an atmosphere that wasn't that peaceful or appreciating. So I really concentrate on working with these companies as much as I can, because I think that every work of peace that we do is a contribution to the peace of our whole planet.
Paul Falcone, this sounds like a love fest, doesn't it?
I'm liking everything that I'm hearing, and that's wonderful. The work that everyone does on this call, and it's just incredible.
Yeah, unique. So how do you like being an entrepreneur?
Well, so everyone knows, after 3 decades of doing human resources, about 6 months ago, I opened my own consulting firm, and I was scared to death, but Ed, I'm loving it. It's been 6 months and I am a happy camper. I'm glad I made this move.
So the SHRM new board was just announced. It's really diverse, isn't it?
It is. It is good for them.
Yeah, I look forward to being at that next national convention. We've
Yeah, I'll be
been
there too. I'm doing a presentation, so I'll see you there.
good. Yeah, well, you know, they give me a press pass to do broadcasts and interview some of the board and some of the key speakers. So please come back on Global TV Talk Show.
Of course, anytime.
Yeah, okay. So Matthias, when we do our meeting in Hamburg, I'm looking at May 15 afternoon luncheon. I'd like you to, of course, you be involved, but if you could advise me about others I should invite to come and be a speaker, whether it's virtual or in person in the Hamburg event, I would love that. Why don't you tell me more about your organization?
Yeah. What we do at the EAF, I start first of all with the EAF, is the same like we are all doing here right now. I think in the EAF we can say we are colleagues. Some of us are also competitors together in a country or an area, but nearly everybody is friends with each other. It's an unbelievable forum, and I would really invite every one of you to get there, to join maybe during our next conference in Luxembourg. It's from the 9th to 10th June in Luxembourg. It's a really pleasure. We had a lot of fun there, and we do also good business. So that's what we are doing with the EAF. We support each other and we try to bring up the EA in general.
Great.
Me, myself, I do mostly counseling. I got a little network of counselors, and we do mostly counseling for EAP providers in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, mostly in German, but sometimes also in English. And that's what I do next to adult learning. I like to give workshop. I like to also, like, I think, Paul, you do the same, like giving workshops and webinars to leaders also.
Yeah, well, Sandrine Bardot does that too. So Sandrine, tell us about what your work life is all about as entrepreneur in compensation.
So when I set up my company 10 years ago, I'm going to celebrate 10 years early April. I was the first, as far as I know, I was the first independent consultant in my field 10 years ago, and based in the region. So I had to educate the market that it was possible to work with a small consultant rather than going to the huge consultancies that has 14, 15, 20,000 consultants across the globe. And I'm glad that I think that I was lucky. I was the first one to do it, but just as a kind of a little bit in advance compared to what the market is moving, but there are more and more people who are now becoming freelancers or setting up their own company in that field. What I do, because I'm also, as far as I know, I'm the person in the region who has the most number of years of experience in that field. So I can focus on things that are a little bit more at the strategic level, which is why I'm working with boards and the heads of HR and the heads of total rewards internationally. Mostly what I do so board advisory, so I'm a board member, but I also do classic consulting. So I help companies understand how they are paying in their different industries and their different countries, and the areas where they can improve things. And that covers all the cash elements of the package, the benefits, the performance management, the well-being. That's why the EAPs are interesting for me. This is kind of the additional services that companies can provide to differentiate themselves. And the other thing that I do is training. So I am faculty for World at Work, which is the global association of compensation and benefits professionals. But I'm also designing and delivering my own courses in Asia mostly, and the Middle East and Europe. I don't do courses in the US because the US market is very unique because you have all those 401ks and healthcare things and so on. So it's very unique. But for the rest of the world, I can cover. So I kind of mix my time between all of those.
Yeah, I want you to be sure and connect in the chat with Gary Sanger and also Teneke. And Andy, do you have AGS in the Gulf states?
We do, yes. So we're in Dubai, Qatar. So we can assist out in those areas. So happy to connect with you guys out there as well. So yes, so you probably know, you've probably seen us, you probably know us out there. I would have thought.
So so in Dubai, are there well, I know you have Russians there who escaped to okay, but you also have people who are from England and from all over the world coming to live there. So meet Emily Braun. She's an international lifestyle consultant. So Emily, do you do anything in Dubai area?
No, not at this point. It doesn't mean that I would not consider it soon, because at this point I'm solopreneur, so I'm concentrating on Latin America and European market. But since people are moving and moving quickly over the last years and would be moving, and I'm working with remote workers and professionals, actually. So obviously, I'm always tuned on what's happening in this part of the world. I'm connected with Bali because it's a center of attention, and I'm always open for collaboration, I would say.
Yeah.
I'd just like to come in and just say what
Please.
a great location Dubai is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's gone from strength to strength. Huge Russian community there. As you say, a lot of Russians have got out, and some of my colleagues are in that situation as well. So a great hub, a great place to be in the UAE. Just wanted to add that in there.
Yes.
Yeah,
you bet.
speaking about Russian-speaking community, I can obviously connect, and I'm actually helping for some Russians who now in hard condition to kind of escape, to find location in Latin America and North America. So there's interesting points. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yes.
lovely. It's a lovely place to be, especially in the winter. Right now, the weather is like fantastic. In the summer, well, you have to learn to live in the mall, and because it's 44 officially 44 Celsius degrees. That's the official temperature. The real temperature is more like 48 to 51. But there are legal considerations at 44 degrees, so rarely does the official temperature go above. Yeah, it's a lovely place to be. Lots of opportunities, definitely.
Thank you very much. I want to ask Chris to tell us about how you are being protected, safety.
Well, I've got 12 new friends here, so I think that goes a long way, doesn't it?
I of course I meant in Ukraine.
But as you know, the other people know, I mean, I have extensive experience with this in the reconstruction with Iraq, Afghanistan, South Sudan, Libya. Home Essentials was involved there. And so, this isn't some type of foolhardy venture of what we want to do. It's been born out of our experiences in other post-conflict areas. This one's considerably different. And the missiles that are just kind of flying all over the country inject another element of uncertainty that's unwelcome. But in a small town of Kremenets, 20,000 people, it's not dangerous. Everybody knows where. The most dangerous thing is everybody knows where you live. But when I'm in Kyiv, what's very different about this is the success that the Ukrainians have had in shooting down and stopping the inbound missiles. From my experiences in Iraq and Afghanistan, the destruction should probably be 100 to 200 times greater than it is. So the Western and industrialized nations that have come to support Ukraine have provided critical armaments and weapons to help protect Kyiv and many of the other cities. This attack on the infrastructure and the electricity grid, is as I said earlier, a horrible element. But there's not. What's different about this is in Iraq and Afghanistan, contractors such as myself were looked upon as abating or helping invaders and occupying forces. Here, we're going in with the full support of the indigenous Ukrainian people, those that just want jobs, those that just want peace for their family. And that's what I said at the beginning. It'd be fun to go in there and deliver some mattresses. And then, Ed, you know this, I can go back to, where I live in Hong Kong. I can sit on the roof of probably one of the greatest streets on planet Earth and talk to friends over gin tonic and say, these are the photos. So at this stage in my life, if you have a chance to make a difference, it's a chance I have to take. And I've got the full support of my family to do it. And this is something I very much want to do. So I'm in with this small community, but I'm also involved, as you know, in the reconstruction conferences and economic forums. So you have kind of this dynamic life of being in small town Ukraine, but yet being involved with the European Union and the State Department and other people like that, working on that. So it's been fantastic. Ukraine is dangerous. I'm not taking away from that. And there are things that are horrific, especially with the loss of power, loss of water, me having to use snow to wash my hands. But the fact that there was 2 feet of snow kept the vodka very cold. Nothing better than ice cold vodka from your balcony when the refrigerator doesn't work. So you just have to be careful. But I think that, and again, I can't speak for anybody else's safety. I have not felt that dangerous, even when I was in Kiev when the missiles were falling. I think it's not as dangerous as everybody says, but it's an assessment that each and every one of those individuals and their families and companies must make.
So reconstruction, there's a video that the government of Ukraine has produced, a very high-tech video. It's on our website. And if anybody wants to get it, I'll send it around after the show's over. And each of you will get a copy of this show to do with whatever you want with it. We're going to sponsor it on globalbusinessnews.net and globaltvtalkshow.com, our YouTube channel and Facebook group. Our LinkedIn connections are 4.2 million if we reach them all. More likely it'll be 400,000 to 500,000 across 6 months. So a lot of people will be seeing this program. We will be doing another mastermind type show, the same format. You're all invited to come back about 1 month from now. I'll post the exact date. I don't know yet, about a month from now. And then again in March. We want to keep it Global Business Talent Masterminds, glorious name. That means that all of you are on the show because I thought you were experts in what you do. And if we could come together, hey, we have a party. Gary Sanger, I know you're in a hard close. We're awaiting the arrival of Michael Piker, who's been in another conference all day. He's in outside of London. He's with Flutter Entertainment, which is a global company based in, I think, London. They own many bars and restaurants and movie studios and TV stations, and FanDuel is the sports betting thing, which is giant in the US. And he's in the suite, the talent suite, and he's directly in charge of talent mobility, but also rewards, anything to do with comp and ben, and anything to do with DE&I. So he's going to be talking about that when he gets on the show here sometime in the next 20 minutes, I hope. So until then, we're going to continue. So Tineke, if you could address, if you don't mind, your view, you touched on it earlier, the masculine way, the feminine way.
Okay. Well, how I got involved in this is because when I sold my business after being in business for 22 years and only had been supported by men, I started talking to women in business because I thought, hey, let's go and connect with some more women. To me, at the time, they were aliens. It was like they talked about their feeling. They talked about they didn't feel me. They didn't resonate with me, and I was all like I'm open. I'm communicative. What's happening here? And slowly over the years, this is 10 years of personal development of me having to notice that I was a very masculine woman, entering the more feminine arena, more feminine way of operating, doing business. And I don't say I'm still there, but one of the things for me is, for example, developing my intuition, doing meditation, listening to my voice when it tells me something crazy to do, which in my mind does totally not make any sense. And my mind wants to control. My mind wants to dictate what's going to happen. But the feminine is all about listening to your intuition, following the flow. Experience doesn't matter, trusting. So that is, at some point, I started working with women because I thought they need to have focus, they need to have goals, they need to create plans, they need to have financial knowledge. Yes, they do. And I had to learn to become more feminine. So it was beautiful how it played out. So what I now see is, and I've learned this the past years, it is for the feminine woman, it's very difficult to run a business because the business arena can still be pretty masculine. And I'm talking about entrepreneurship. In my country, 30% of the women start a business. They choose to remain small. Most of them are self-employed. So the real big businesses often are owned by men. And then I started wondering, why is this the case? Why do women keep their businesses so small? Why do men build bigger businesses? Well, for starters, they love challenges. I used to do that too. They have a lot of guts. They like to take, they are more into risk taking than women are. So it's all from my personal experience. And I sometimes get judged by that I'm too black and white, but it helps stating things clear. There are huge differences in how women operate when they run a business and how men, the masculine man operates his business. Because, you know, we all are masculine and we all are feminine, but naturally men are born more masculine and naturally women are born more feminine. And for me, it helps when women start to see and understand that you need to be out there, you need to promote yourself, you need to be bold. All those things are also important. And then, yes, collaboration is hugely important. And I see this here already happening so beautifully. Listening to your intuition, making an impact, creating a difference, all of those things are feminine traits. And so when you look up the definition of success in the dictionary, it is still about numbers, about power, about status. It's not about creating a difference. It's not about making impact. And we would say those are the soft skills, but it's not soft. It's a lot of hard work to get there as well. But if you do that the feminine way, listening to your intuition, being guided by the flow, it's not hard work anymore. It's so much easier because you skip a lot of pain, trial, and error. And that is what I really want to help women, but also men with, that it's so much easier. It's not always, you know, just do it. It might not be the right time and the right moment for you, but if your senses say that, why force the wall and break through it? Wait until it is the right moment. So, I mean, I can go on, Ed, as you can hear.
Brilliant. It's brilliant. Thank you very much. Andy, you tried to, first of all, you learned how to swim, and then you say, well, I'm going to swim the English Channel. Now that's not a feminine trait. That's like a suicide. That's a suicide trait. But
I have to say, no. So I think you're slightly wrong there, because the channel swimming, I knew nothing about swimming. At the age of 48, I couldn't swim. I'd done my Everest things. I'd got that all out of my system. I got a world record for the highest dinner party on Everest. And I got all that out of my system. And then my wife said to me, do something at sea level, because you literally doing all this high altitude stuff has nearly killed you so many times. I was caught in an earthquake in 2015 while I was trying to summit Everest the first time. So I had all that and I put that all away. And I looked at what else I could do. And when she said do something at sea level, at the age of 48, my biggest fear, and I love taking on fear, and I do talks on fear and what is really fear. And the whole thing about swimming the channel was, well, my biggest fear was water, not swimming the channel. My biggest fear was water, being out of depth, not being able to swim. And I thought, right, okay, what can I do? So I announced to the world that I was going to swim the English Channel. And of course, everyone fell down who knew me, saying, well, how was that possible? You can't even swim and you're petrified of water. And I looked at it logically and said, well, 1, I need to learn to swim. 2, I need to get fit enough. And 3, I need to train. And if I can do all of those, I'll overcome what I'm doing. Now, because I set myself a challenge, I put the fear out of the way, because the challenge took over the fear element. So you start to learn much quicker. And I learned a lot. I mean, I was supposed to do it in 2 years. We had a pandemic, all the pools shut. So I ended up swimming up a river every day. It was horrific. I mean, and then I spent 16 weekends down at Dover Harbour swimming in the harbour. The big thing I would say then, going back to your point a second ago, it was a very feminine thing. And the reason I say that is because more women attempt the channel than men by far. When I was on the beach, there must have been about 50 people training to do the channel. I would say it's probably about 10 guys, and the rest were women. Phenomenal women that swim the channel. So it's funny how we straight away think, oh, it's a man's thing. I think the stats, if we look at it, I bet more women have swum the channel than men. They're so much better at swimming as well, I must say. But it was something I learned from that whole experience. And yeah, and I got to do it. I got to do it in 2020, or 2021. I can't remember now. 2020, yeah, 2021. Sorry, because we're in 23 now. And I did it in September. I managed to get 11 miles, and then I just couldn't do it no more. But it was still the best thing I've ever done. It topped Everest, if I'm honest. It was the most. I had a lot of reasons for doing it. When I first took on the swim, when I first came back from Everest after breaking the world record in 2018, I got back. We was in the papers, we were in the Times, everything, and then I found out my mum had cancer and she was dying. And my last conversation with my mum in the hospice was, I'm thinking of learning to swim the channel, and she just said, "Do it, son. Life's too short." That's what triggered me to do it. And then when the day came after 3 years later, me standing on the beach and stepping into the water to swim for forever, I sort of knew I was never going to make France. And I swam as long as I could and as strong as I could. And 5 hours into the swim, jellyfish, I'd swum over the jellyfish. I was swimming next to the big boats that you see, the ferries going past. Absolutely incredible day, slightly rough in the morning. It settled out. And then I just heard this voice. I was getting tired. My arms were getting tired. And I heard this voice, and it was my mum. And she just said, "You can give up now, son. You've proved what you wanted to do." And I just stopped. And I know people say, well, why did you stop? I just stopped because for me, it was my whole, I don't know, you could call it grief. You could call it, the brain playing with you to say, using whatever it could to get me out of the water. But it was the most fantastic day ever that I've had, and it was really enlightening to what I did. So yes, it's I love it. Sorry, I'm probably talking too much.
No, this is really good exposure. So Gary, do you think you can find an executive job for Andrew Ellerman?
Especially if they're afraid of water, right? That's. I want to go back to Tiniki's comment. Turn your organizational chart upside down. And do you, your clients, your companies, do any of you have all male customers? I guess not. And so if you're trying to get that voice, that intuition, that rationale about the female side of your customers, what do they want? I think the good old boys better wake up. We still find way too many of those in companies, and those that have moved forward, the balance of their execs, the balance of the voice of what kind of services, what kind of products. I'm reminded, I'm an executive search guy. I'm a retained headhunter, and we work for companies to fill out their senior management and executive teams. A recent success, 2 billion plus in revenue, privately held company, third generation, global. This company has their CFO that's ready to retire in the next year or two. We were fortunate enough to get the search. This lady started yesterday, and she's in the queue to be the backup for the CFO for this big privately held company. I can assure you this company has a balance on what their services are through the lens of a woman or the lens of a man. And so as I think about how you deliver, what you deliver, let's keep in mind, what does our customer want? Because in the age-old adage, if you're not serving that customer, somebody else is. And I think having that perspective is a big, big deal. And so I really commend you, Tineke, as to helping that woman balance out, get the full perspective, and if your organization is properly focused. I'm located here in Los Angeles. We do global work, but if they're properly focused, you're going to know the lens of that customer and what they're looking for. I really commend where you are as it relates to women trying to grow their business. And God forbid, you might take on all the attributes of what a man has, or God forbid, you might take them all that what a woman has. Let's run the business through the lens of making it super great for that customer.
Emily Braun, you're an entrepreneur. Say something about all this.
I'm not only entrepreneur and woman, solopreneur in my business now. I have different upbringing and a different perspective. I was born in Soviet Union, as you can realize probably. And I still don't understand all this hype about men, woman, equity, equality. Like I get it in my school and I grew over. So for me, it does not important man or woman. It's a merit. It's what this person about. I'm not dividing my entities to woman, feminine or masculine side. First of all, I have engineering degree. Secondly, I learned biology. I was a good student actually. And I'm not buying this, latest discovery, scientific discovery. We are all complicated creatures, men and women, and we have different facilities in us. And when I'm doing something as an entrepreneur or I'm trying to plan something, I'm not considering myself like I'm woman or not. Like, I'm not open or aggressive feminist, I would say. I don't want to diminish anyone. It's my view. I'm really don't understand sometimes what you're speaking about. There is a educated entrepreneurs, people, woman or man. I'm against the ratio. It should be, this percentage or other percentage. If she is really smart, educated, has all qualities, kudos, 100%. But if not, what we are speaking about, it's how I look at this. And, Soviet Union, I learned that it's all propaganda, but you guys still kind of going through this. There's my perspective.
Thank you. Okay, everybody, here's Michael Piker. Thank you for joining us. Michael, I want to introduce you to several people here. Paul Falcone, many years has been CHRO, Nickelodeon, Paramount Pictures, Viacom. I've already introduced you, Michael, earlier as being in charge of rewards and people, talent, DE&I for Flutter. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you. Delighted to be here. Thank you. Sorry,
Yes,
my boss came in the room. I'm delayed. Sorry.
No, that's quite all right. Want you to meet Christopher Exline, Michael Piker. Chris is our guy who's going to be in Ukraine tomorrow. Is it, Chris?
Krakow tomorrow, back in Ukraine on Friday.
So he's Michael. Chris is CEO of a multinational company called Home Essentials that's based in Hong Kong, but his office is in many places. Home furnishings for relocated people and others. And he's going into Ukraine under his banner of Rest Assured Ukraine. He's bought out a factory capacity, manufacturing capacity to manufacture his mattresses in Ukraine and give them out to people who need them. Chris?
Michael, it's wonderful to finally meet you. I've heard about you for a long time, so it's good to put a face with the name.
Thank you, and that's a very noble. That's a great pursuit you're pursuing. That's amazing.
Well, we're there. I mean, there's a business element to it because we need to start laying all the groundwork for participating with the reconstruction of Ukraine when victory is secured. But we want to get all that operated now, and I'm looking forward to getting back. And as everyone else knows, I actually moved there from Hong Kong to become a resident in a small town called Kremenetz. And Emily, thank you for all of your guidance and assistance with that. Emily's been fantastic of trying to get people to connect. And unfortunately, I've got people waiting for me for other meetings since I'm leaving tomorrow. But Ed, again, this brings back all the great memories of the Ed Cohen conferences. I can't wait for them to start up again. I look forward to potentially meeting all of you in person. And you're all welcome to come and join us in Kyiv or Kremenetz, and we'll give you some of the best borscht you've ever had in your life.
That's really cool. So, Michael, what's it like to work for a big company in the entertainment gambling business?
Well, it's you probably know our brands in America, for example, FanDuel, which is quite famous. So yes, frenetic World Cup, lots of things. You can imagine wearing a reward and D&I hat. You've got, for example, in Doha with the World Cup, we have staking betting on a particular big, huge event, but on the other hand, you've got to also weigh that against very sensitively some of the human rights issues. So it's an interesting balance between commercial intent versus the D&I balancing. How you deftly do that well is something that always is at the top of my mind. But the sector's growing. I came from the tobacco sector, which people have strong views on, into betting and gambling. So interesting to be in these sectors where people clearly have, rightly, some strong views.
So also from the entertainment business, as I said earlier, Paul Falcone is now an entrepreneur, but for many years, as I mentioned, Viacom, Paramount Pictures, Nickelodeon, much the same sensitivity is needed in the people leadership, people coaching role. Right, Paul?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, you can't be in the entertainment business without, being something controversial at some point. And there are pretty strong feelings out there these days, and people are not afraid to let their feelings be known. So, Michael, I empathize with you. I understand where you're coming from. So
earlier today, you did a post about DE&I and rewards in this environment that we're in now. Did you want to talk about what you were doing earlier today?
There's quite a bit of confluence. Most people look at me skeptically. You either do reward or D&I separately when I go to events. And they say, well, why is it together? Because it is coming together. So let me try to be specific. So first is with regard to solid transparency, gender pay gap reporting, pay equity. There's actually a lot of overlap. But more importantly is the manifestation of the way we express reward more inclusively. So I find it very appealing, and also I have a personal narrative. So, I'm out, I went around the world. So it's a very personal thing to me. So reward, I always say, is what I am. D&I is who I am as a human being. And so reward can be quite Socratic, quite numeric, and quite amorphous sometimes. And as I said today, we're stuck in the past. We've kind of been, as Sandrine knows, reward does its thing, but we've been talking about the same issues for 30 years. When you put a D&I lens on top of reward, it actually suddenly then requires reward to step up and step differently. So that's kind of the ethos of what I was trying to say today, is that we're stuck in the past, we need to change. And D&I is a beautiful expression about this particular facet where you can join the two together and do it better.
Sandrine, would you like to comment?
I'm on a similar, I think, thinking journey than Mike. being in that space for many years. I still see some practices that were already outdated when I started my career 30 years ago. But today, I think that a number of reward professionals are trying to change. The other thing also, which is kind of similar, but at the company level or at the corporate level, is the ESG. So all this corporate governance and so on, which is also getting more and more impacting in terms of rewards. And I would say that ESG is kind of the DEI of the corporation in some ways. It's the more not say soft, because that's not really what it is, but the human kind of aspect to it. And that's what's pushing us to change as well. So I agree with Mike was saying. I agree.
Paul Falcone?
Yeah, I agree with everyone too. The funny thing about this whole idea of diversity and inclusion is just practical. Gary Sanger mentioned a few minutes ago that, you know, you want your business leaders to reflect your customer base. But besides that, everybody, talent scarcity is going to be the driver for the rest of the century. It's not just because of COVID. When you look at all the differences that are happening demographically and labor replacement rates and everything else, going through the 2050s and the 2080s, we're going to be recruiting talent acquisition, growing your own talent. That's really going to be the biggest challenge. You need to be able to access all talent within your nation. You can't just look at it as female. It's got male. It's got to be female and male just to stay alive. So this will fix itself. I just think we need to get there faster. We need to push the river a little bit.
I'd like to hear from, and I know you all would like to hear from on this regard, EAP, employee assistance, Dave and Matthias. Would you like to sum up and talk about DE&I and rewards, how it fits in with the EAP? Dave?
I'm happy to go. You know, we look to our social institutions, our traditional social institutions of church and family and government and education and economics or work. But more and more we are looking to work to solve, to address some of these social issues that we're talking about. D&I is an important one. And as James brought up to start off the call, you know, things have changed a lot. And one of those things is there's just more emphasis on that social institution of work to address stress, to address emotional behavioral health from an economic perspective, from a work and cost benefit perspective, not just in peace orientation, but I think that's where the solution lies. There's just so much divisiveness, as everyone knows on this call, that interferes with people's behavioral health and health overall, well-being. And as fast as things move, I think it's complicated further by social media and the internet and the dogs we're listening to, the dog on our right shoulder and the dog on the shoulder, and what do we pay attention to is the one we feed, the one we listen to. So are we listening to MSNBC or Fox News or CNN, or do we even get our news from the New York Times or Washington Post or other traditional outlets? So and I think this stirs up the whole divisiveness, accelerates the whole divisiveness, and to an extent becomes addicting. And it's important, and we see this right and left. It's not just the January 6th revolt in the U.S. and the attempted takeover and coup of the Capitol and the insurrection, but and I'll hand it to Matthias. It's the attempted coup just a month ago in Germany, or the right and left divisiveness we see in Brazil in the recent elections in Brazil, and everything that follows. And people look to work as an institution to help people address this and make sense of some of these conflicts, D&I included. Matthias, am I overemphasizing this divisiveness?
No, I just totally agree. And I think also it's also about a community at the workplace to get people together, to have the same mind, the same goal, maybe, yeah, in a way, to achieve the same goal and to stay together. And that's what I think where EA programs could be really helpful for. But I totally agree, Dave.
No, I think we should all hold hands and sing Kumbaya. So Annette, would you like to lead us in that song?
Yeah, but I really agree that that's what it really is about. If I am looking for talents for my company, then the best way to do so is that my employees are satisfied with their job, with my company, and that they tell their kind of neighbors and friends about the great work they are doing in this company. And also as clients, we love to buy from those companies. And so it's not only about, let's say, let's call it a soft factor like peace, but it's also about money, because if employees really stay in the companies and if they are satisfied, they are not ill so many days, they stay longer in the company, if the clients are happy as well, and this all contributes to an increased turnover. So it's not only about, let's say, being nice, but as I've been studying economics many years ago, so I also am wearing the glasses of somebody thinking in an economic way. And so, in my opinion, it's both. It's good for my inner being and for my feeling, to feel kind of being supported in the company, and it also contributes to the result of a company. So that was not yet Kumbaya.
Thank you. Andy Ellerman, let's change this topic just a little bit to look at outlook for 23 business. What do you see happening there? So far, are companies sending people? Are they packing things up?
We've seen a huge increase in people starting to move people again, after there was lots of rumors that won't happen. Obviously the remote workers are still there. People want more choice, so we're seeing a lot of that, so we've adapted as a company as well, but we're seeing a lot of tenders at the moment, so it's a good sign for us that a lot of companies are now starting to get back into the thought process of, okay, we need to move our staff, we need to think about what we're going to do for the next 2-3 years. So it's an interesting, it's getting going again, if that makes sense. It took forever after the pandemic for it to actually happen, but we've seen a huge increase in the amount of movement. I think last year we ended up with 138,000 families that we relocated and moved around the world. So it's showing that that's a huge increase from like the years before. Which were obvious. There was no, you couldn't move across borders, but yeah, but we're seeing a huge increase. This year is looking good. I think 2023 is going to be a good year overall for everyone, for all businesses. I love, I think, just going back to what they were talking about, Dean and I think this is the most fascinating thing that's happened for a long time. For me, it's all about finding the right person who's right for the job, and you should strip away whether they're male, female, whatever gender, whatever color, whatever race, whatever who they are, disability even. Like, if they're the right person for that job, that's where DE&I is bringing them people to the top. And it's just lovely to hear companies talking about it all the time, like rather than just the odd company talking about it. It's every company I talk to now, it's at the top of their list. And it was very interesting what you just said, Mike, about reward now being part of that, or sitting on top of reward. I find that fascinating because I haven't heard many people talk about that at the moment. So yeah, I'd love to get your thoughts on that later, actually. But I find it fascinating. I think it's 2023. I think it's going to be a good year for everyone. I think, everyone's working in the right way. Everyone's starting to think differently, and people are wanting different options. Assignees want different options. We want different options, and I think that's a good thing. I'm a huge believer in change, and I think we're in an era now where people want change. They've always wanted change, but now people are not afraid to stand up and say, no, I don't agree with that. I think this is what we should do. So yes, there's huge things happening in the world, I think, at the moment.
So Michael, in your company and in all the companies, the organization, is it true that the people have the liberty to stand up and discuss things? Is that the people feeling within your company?
Yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate to work in 7 iconic brands. So other firms, Cisco, for example, Lenovo, are very advanced. But yes, so the voice of the employee to speak up, particularly there's lenses, for example, in our area around gender, so pay progression, retention, and promotion to the very top echelon for women is equal to men, which is absolutely what must happen. 2 is that we acknowledge accessibility challenges of the workforce, and multicultural representation is equally important. And being gay myself, so LGBTQIA+, the representation of my community, for example, in all the companies I've been in has been very resolute. So we call it every voice matters. So we find when leaders disclose their personal narrative with true disclosure and empathy, and if they're truly authentic, then the voices then escalate. The voices are then acknowledged. So I've been in the field for a while, and I see some amazing practices at Starbucks, for example, or at, for example, I've seen at McDonald's, I've seen at Coca-Cola. It used to be clients of mine at Mercer. And they use analytics to drive evidence. So every single thing that we intend to do, we measure it, and we use predictive analytics to then generate outcome. So in our case, we say 40% of women by 2026 to be running the company. We're already there at 33.8. So metrics matter, evidence matters, data matters as much as the voice, but also if you can measure it.
Thank you very much. James Moss, you've built, as I said earlier, mobility tech into absolutereload.com. It's so people can run their own relocation without spending a fortune.
Yeah, well, people and companies. I mean, this has been a really fascinating discussion, actually, and picking up on Andrew's points about thinking differently, I thought was great. And Michael on the empathy and so on. I mean, there is change, but there are a lot of headwinds also out there. I mean, I don't want to sort of be the guy who throws a bucket of hot water over this, but there's a lot of talk of recession. There's extremely high inflation, which governments and everyone's trying to get under control. You've got the headwinds clearly of the Ukrainian tragedy that's taking place. And I deal with communication, I deal with the way that people move and the way they work and the way they're changing. And I think there's a lot of opportunity out there. I think there's a number of sort of new ways of doing things, the old things better and differently. I thought Chris was great, saying that you give the customer what they want, not what they think they need necessarily, but what they want actually want. But there's a little anecdote cross-reference across that, which is one of my favorite business quotes, which is Henry Ford. And when Henry Ford was doing his research, as to, what does the customer want, they all came back with the same answer. They wanted a faster horse. And I think there's a lot in that. Not everyone realizes quite what a faster horse looks like. And certainly seeing that in my world. We do remote relocation, pay as you go. It's never been done before. We give a 100% money back guarantee, which has never been done before. And we save companies a small fortune, not doing all their relocation, but just, for the bits where you don't really want to spend a fortune. And, we're sort of having a bit of a Henry Ford moment. We're in that space. It's going to be really interesting, Andrew, in your world, the shipping world, the relocation world, the way people get employed, interns and so on. Are you going to, give them red carpet treatment from day one, or are you going to do other things? So great discussion, a lot going on. a lot going on. I think it's going to be a fascinating year.
Thank you all. Paul Falcone, I thank you for your time. It's so valuable. And I'm really honored that you're able to stick it out here the last 90 minutes.
Thanks, Ed. Loving it.
Great. Thank you all for being on Global TV Talk Show. I'd like this to go on, but I know that everyone has other things to do today. The sun is shining here in Southern California, so I've got to go out and get some air.
No rain in California. The rain is stopped.
It moved over to Phoenix and Colorado. It's coming your way, James. So everybody stay dry. So Tineke, thank you for your words of leadership, uniqueness. And Emily, your insight is just spot on, as James would say. Annette, thank you for your heartfelt words. It's great. Sandrine, let's do it again. And thank you, Dave, for co-sponsoring and being involved again.
Thank you.
Very much.
I'll be back to you in the next day or so. I don't think this will need any editing, but I'll take a look. And it'll be full of megabytes. So clear out your cache. You'll want to see this one again, I think. And please come back on Global TV Talk Show. We can do one-on-ones. You know, Emily and I have done one-on-ones all year, and I hope you continue. And so very quickly, Emily, you're so special with your background and in Toronto and now looking at Mexico and other places. You're even looking into this new country being formed along the Danube. Are you still doing that?
I became a resident of this country, and in an hour I would have interview with one of the ministers. No, I don't want to confuse other people, but yes, from one side, I'm relocating to Mexico part-time, like planning to live part-time in Mexico, in Canada. I have 2 citizenship and 2 residencies and working my European passport. But my latest passion, I would say, Free Republic of Liberland, because I like this idea. I like all the new concept, not exactly new, but actually new country to be maybe leading Singapore of Europe as they plan to be. So yes, it's I will share with you, Ed, and others on our next one-to-one with Ed interview what I found about Liberland and other directions I'm working with.
Fascinating. Thank you all. And I'll be back to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.